So, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the last entry into the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, The Witch from Mercury. I didn't hate it. I didn't really think it was terrible. It wasn't for me. And I didn't really feel like I had a strong enough reaction to it to where I felt like it was worth reviewing, especially because I knew the kind of people who I would get commenting on a video talking about a franchise that decided to make a girl main character, so I figured it was just worth skipping. But I'm a firm believer that just because the current entry into a franchise you like isn't for you, doesn't mean the next thing can't bring you back like it's nothing. And nowhere is that more true than with Mobile Suit Gundam Gquicks, the latest addition into the Gundam franchise, and in my opinion, one of the strongest entries in a long time. And today I would like to talk about why I think that is, what this show did right, and why that just kind of works for me. I know the show didn't end up being everyone's cup of tea, especially towards the end. We'll talk about that. But in my opinion, Gundam Gquicks does something that can be so hard to do, but is so worth applauding when it happens. And that is, for all its big sci-fi mumbo jumbo, this show does a great job of making you feel like what's really important is what's going on with its 15-year-old girl lead character. That's not always easy. A lot of times these characters get lost in the shuffle. God knows that happened last time. But I think Machu is a genuinely great main character, and I'm going to talk about why. First up, let's talk about the premise of the show. So, this series opens up with said Machu. I just like saying her name. It's fun. Machu is a 15-year-old girl living on a space colony, and she lives a pretty normal teenage life. She goes to school, she comes home, rinse and repeat, day in, day out, over and over. And she's getting tired of it. The show brilliantly illustrates in its first episode, this is a girl who feels like everyday life is a prison. She wants to move on. She wants her freedom. She feels like there's a big world out there, and it's about time she starts going towards it. And you know what? I think that's a fucking great premise for a big sci-fi show about war and politics and all that. Why, you may ask yourselves? Well, think back to when you were Machu's age. Think back to when everyday life was getting too boring for you. Think back to when you wanted to make your mark on the world, when you felt it was time to prove you were more than just that kid in class, or your parents' child, or just a kid in the neighborhood. Think back to how good it felt when you first found something that you felt was yours. Rather it was a hobby, rather it was an achievement, rather it was joining a community that made you feel like you were you. And that is where our series gets going. Because through a series of sci-fi-ness, Machu becomes the pilot of the Gundam Gquicks, a state-of-the-art mobile suit that she basically has to pilot in what's called clan battle. Basically, it's a 2v2 fight between various mobile suits. We see Machu has to do it with the aid of a mysterious boy piloting a red Gundam named Shuji, as well as the aid of a new friend who she bumps into in the first episode named Nyan. Together, these trio form 3 teenagers who are just trying to find their own place in the world. I think this series really does capture that feeling of being a teen who just wants their own place. All 3 of these characters are doing it for various reasons. Rather, it's Nyan, who is a war refugee just kind of living in poverty and trying to just find her own way, to Shuji, who's kind of his own little interesting ball of weirdness, but I like him all the same. And for the first several episodes, the series has a very simple formula. Machu and Shuji partake in clan battle. There's plenty of scenes of Machu and Nyan, and even just the 3 of them together, just being teenagers, enjoying each other's company, having fun, seeing more of this world, getting little bits of the political structure. All of this perfectly encaptures that feeling of just day-to-day life and how important it is, especially at that age, to start feeling like you have friends who are going to bring you to that next stage in life. One of the bigger, and you find this out very quickly, aspects of this show is Machu develops a very quick crush on Shuji. I mean, A, can you blame her? Who doesn't love their weird sci-fi anime twink boys? But what I think is very interesting about the way Machu's crush is handled is that it very much feels like she's not necessarily in love with Shuji, but the idea of Shuji and what Shuji will bring to her life. The idea that this is how she gets her big adventure. This is how she gets her freedom. This is how she makes her mark. It's through him, it's through the Gquicks, it's through Neon, and it's through just the idea that she has found something she's good at, i.e. blowing up giant robots with her own giant robot. And I think this really does capture that feeling of being a teenager. And I think that's something we don't get a lot. Now, most anime are about teenagers, but I don't really feel like they go that deep into adolescence or being that age group. We get a few every now and again, but I think it is very rare to see a series that's willing to just put those ideas of adolescence on Front Street like this and kind of explore them, I think, in this more kind of relaxed setting. Then about halfway through, the show changes. I won't spoil what happens, but I think this change really does a great job of demonstrating that despite how strong Machu feels, how power she feels, she's still a teenager. And she's going to do things that are dumb, she's going to make mistakes, and there are consequences. Consequences you get to see play out. And I think that really then leads into a second half that, while I think is definitely weaker than the first half and kind of unravels by the end, I'm not going to lie, the last episode is kind of a mess and ends on a really weird note, especially because as of right now, we don't know if and when we're getting a follow-up to Gquicks. But I do think its ability to stay focused on Machu and what she wants, I think, is really strong. As far as the other characters go, I didn't really get a chance to talk about her too much, but I really do like Neon a lot. The idea of a girl who has gone through a lot of crap and doesn't really have a place for herself, and how just the sheer idea of home or community can really influence her, and how it can really like get her thinking extremes and make her easily to be influenced or even to follow certain people, I actually thought was really interesting and kind of sad, but I think led to a lot of great moments. Like I said, Shuji is a lot of fun. He kind of disappears for a lot of the show, and he is kind of a weird character, but I enjoyed him nonetheless. The side characters range from okay to you just kind of exist. Special shout outs though to the team that Machu works for in the first half of the season. I thought they were a lot of fun and interesting, and I hope if we get more, we get to see more from them. How is the animation in this show? Fucking spectacular. I loved every scene in this show. The way the show demonstrates big, crazy sci-fi concepts, the way it shows action, the way it perfectly blends the CG with the hand-drawn elements, it is spectacular to look at. The character designs are a lot of fun. In particular, I love Machu's design. I think I've kind of like said enough how much I like that character. But Neon, Shuji, everyone is a lot of fun to look at. As far as problems go, because we do always got to talk about problems, like I said, the second half is very all over the place and very messy. But I do still enjoy it. It does get a little Ava-y, if that makes sense. This was a Hideaki Anno show, so take what you will from that. I should definitely talk about fan service. I normally don't, because I'll be honest, I'm kind of desensitized. I just don't really care anymore. I know everyone's got to get up in arms because they're like, oh, this fictional underage character who's a drawing is naked or whatever. I'm at the point I just don't really care. However, I will say, in a show that specifically only works because the characters are teenagers, and when you have a main character with a design that is meant to give off the impression of her being a young teen, I do kind of feel like the amount of times they show off her feminine figure and like to show you her butt, I think this time around we're a little intrusive, and you're right to feel like it's a little awkward. But overall, I loved this series. I really liked what it tried to do. I liked what it tried to get across about being young and feeling freedom, and I just thought it all worked so well, and I really want more. Hell, I would have taken more Witch from Mercury, but this one in particular, I really do want to see more from these characters. But in the comment section below, give me your thoughts on this series. Did you like it? Did you not like it? I know it wasn't everyone's cup of tea. Did you buy any of the merch from it? I would kind of like to. Granted, I have no room for the model kits I haven't built as is. But yeah, give me your thoughts about that in the comment section below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me for more anime. Is this an anime hot take? I don't know. Kind of weird to tell. But we'll see you.